I think my mother did exactly the right thing. I think it's absolutely extraordinary.
A storm may be brewing behind the walls of Balmoral Castle after explosive claims surfaced that Tom Parker Bowles was allegedly caught taking valuables from the royal estate. And insiders insist the entire incident was captured on camera. What began as a quiet royal gathering reportedly turned into a moment of shock when Princess Anne stepped in unexpectedly, triggering whispers of panic, hidden evidence, and a confrontation the palace never wanted exposed. But was this truly a misunderstanding, or something far more damaging to the royal family's image? Do you believe the camera footage reveals the full truth, or could there be a hidden royal cover-up behind the scenes? Share your thoughts in the comments below. And if you enjoy uncovering the most explosive royal drama and hidden palace secrets, make sure to subscribe so you never miss the next revelation. The unexpected arrival at Balmoral. The morning air over Balmoral Castle carried its usual stillness, the kind that longtime royal staff had come to associate with privacy, discipline, and quiet routine. But on this particular day, something felt deeply wrong. Vehicles that did not belong to the estate had begun appearing near service entrances before sunrise. Unfamiliar workers moved quickly across the grounds carrying cases, cables, and covered equipment. Even the kitchen corridors, usually calm and carefully managed, had become crowded with strangers speaking in rushed voices. Staff members exchanged nervous glances but avoided asking questions openly. Everyone sensed that something unusual was unfolding behind closed doors. Then came the moment nobody expected. Princess Anne arrived at Balmoral earlier than scheduled, without the advance notice normally given before senior royals entered the estate. Witnesses later claimed that the atmosphere changed the instant her vehicle crossed the gates. Anne had always been known for noticing details others ignored, and within minutes, she reportedly realized that Balmoral was no longer operating under its normal rhythm. Workers she did not recognize were moving confidently through private sections of the residence as though they had permission to be there. Large catering deliveries had already been unpacked. Temporary lighting equipment appeared positioned near rooms traditionally kept off limits to outsiders. What disturbed staff most was not simply the presence of cameras or production crews. It was the growing belief that someone connected to the royal circle had quietly approved everything without proper authorization from palace officials. According to whispers spreading through the estate, Tom Parker Bowles had allegedly played a key role in allowing the operation to move forward. The idea alone stunned many employees. Balmoral was considered one of the royal family's most protected and deeply personal retreats, a place associated with privacy rather than publicity. Anne reportedly paused near one of the main hallways and watched the activity unfolding around her with visible disbelief. Crew members continued moving equipment, apparently unaware they were being observed by one of the most respected and uncompromising members of the royal family. For several tense moments, nobody spoke. Then staff members noticed Anne's expression hardened as the full scale of the operation became clear. The early morning movements at Balmoral appeared routine at first, but staff who knew the estate's rhythm sensed something was off from the very start. What exactly was being arranged behind those service gates, and why did decades of strict royal protocol suddenly feel unsettled? Stay tuned as the next developments unfold. Trucks, cameras, and growing panic. At first, the activity around Balmoral seemed small enough to ignore. A single truck appeared near one of the service entrances just after sunrise, followed by another less than an hour later. Staff members who had worked at the estate for decades quietly exchanged nervous looks but said very little. Balmoral was known for its strict routines, its privacy, and the deep respect everyone was expected to show toward the royal family's most personal retreat. Nothing arrived there without careful planning and official approval. Yet this time, something felt different from the very beginning. As the morning continued, more unfamiliar faces began moving through the grounds with unusual confidence. Men carrying lighting equipment crossed the hallways as though they had visited the estate many times before. Catering staff unloaded expensive trays, coffee machines, and boxed supplies into rooms that were normally kept closed to outsiders. Several workers were even seen discussing camera angles near one of the property's historic drawing rooms. The quiet atmosphere Balmoral was famous for slowly began disappearing beneath the noise of preparation. Inside the estate, long-serving staff members reportedly started growing anxious. Some whispered that no formal notice had been given through the usual palace channels. Others questioned why temporary crews seemed to know exactly where they were going. The most alarming detail, however, was the growing belief that someone powerful had approved everything privately. Nobody wanted to challenge the operation directly because the name attached to it carried royal connections strong enough to silence objections almost immediately. By midday, the estate no longer resembled the peaceful royal sanctuary many remembered. Cables stretched across polished floors. Equipment cases lined the corridors. Large cameras were allegedly positioned near areas rarely seen by the public. One staff member later claimed the atmosphere felt less like Balmoral and more like a commercial production set preparing for a major broadcast. But the panic truly intensified when whispers began spreading about hidden recording equipment already running inside parts of the estate. Some workers reportedly feared private royal spaces had already been captured on camera before senior members of the family were even informed. Others worried that once filming started officially, there would be no way to quietly reverse the situation. Then came the moment that changed everything. Word spread quickly through the halls that Princess Anne had unexpectedly arrived at Balmoral. Within minutes, conversations stopped, movement slowed, and a wave of fear swept through the crews still setting up equipment. Because if anyone understood the importance of protecting Balmoral's privacy, it was Anne. The atmosphere inside Balmoral quickly turned from routine to unsettling as unfamiliar vehicles, hidden catering teams, and silent equipment rigs filled restricted spaces, all while whispers tied Tom Parker Bowles to the unfolding operation. But what was really being prepared behind those closed doors? And why was secrecy tightening with every passing hour? Let's reveal the surprising details behind it. The shocking name, Behind the Operation. The atmosphere inside Balmoral shifted instantly the moment whispers began linking Tom Parker Bowles to the entire operation. Staff members noticed unfamiliar vehicles arriving quietly through the estate gates, followed by catering teams carrying supplies into areas normally kept private. Equipment cases were stacked along corridors, and temporary lighting rigs appeared inside rooms where cameras were almost never allowed. Some workers assumed a small royal event was being prepared behind closed doors. Others believed palace officials had arranged a discreet media project connected to the family. But as the hours passed, the atmosphere inside Balmoral became increasingly tense. The biggest shock came when whispers started spreading among staff about who had supposedly approved the entire operation. According to several accounts circulating through the estate, the name attached to the arrangements was Tom Parker Bowles. That revelation reportedly stunned many employees because no formal notice had come directly from the king, senior palace officials, or Balmoral management itself. For longtime staff members who understood the strict traditions surrounding the royal residence, the situation immediately felt wrong. Balmoral has always been treated differently from other royal properties. It is known as one of the most private and personal estates connected to the royal family, a place where traditions are protected carefully and outside access is tightly controlled. Even experienced staff members often follow strict rules about photography, visitors, and private family areas. The idea that camera crews were suddenly moving through the estate allegedly under Tom Parker Bowles' authority created confusion almost instantly. Witnesses later claimed that some workers began questioning whether proper approval had truly been granted. A few allegedly asked to see written authorization, while others quietly contacted senior household aides for clarification. Yet the production activity reportedly continued, with crews acting confidently as though everything had already been cleared at the highest level. That confidence only fueled further suspicion among staff who believed something unusual was unfolding behind the scenes. What made the situation even more dramatic was the growing belief that Tom himself was not present during any of it. According to reports circulating afterward, representatives and organizers had allegedly arrived using his name as their authority. For many inside Balmoral, that detail raised even more alarming questions. Had assumptions been made simply because of his royal connections? Had someone overstepped boundaries inside one of the monarchy's most guarded residences? By the time concern spread fully across the estate, nerves were already running high. And then came the moment nobody inside Balmoral expected: the sudden arrival of Princess Anne herself. What started as a quiet, carefully managed operation inside Balmoral quickly shifted into something far more unsettling, as unfamiliar crews, heavy equipment, and staged setups began taking over private spaces long protected from outside eyes. But what exactly was being prepared behind those stone walls? And why did longtime staff suddenly feel they were no longer inside a royal residence, but on a fully controlled film set? Let's find out. Turning Balmoral into a film set. What began as a quiet and carefully organized operation inside Balmoral soon transformed into something far more unsettling. Staff members who had spent years protecting the privacy and traditions of the royal estate reportedly found themselves watching unfamiliar crews move through the halls with an unusual level of confidence. Large equipment cases were wheeled across stone corridors, lighting rigs appeared near private rooms, and catering staff began setting up as though a major production was already underway. For many longtime employees, the atmosphere no longer resembled the peaceful rhythm of Balmoral. Instead, it felt disturbingly close to a commercial film set. According to reports circulating among palace insiders, the crews behaved as though permission had already been fully secured at the highest level. That assumption alone created confusion among staff, especially because Balmoral has always been regarded as one of the royal family's most private retreats. Unlike public-facing royal residences, the estate has traditionally been treated as a sanctuary where members of the family could escape cameras, public appearances, and media pressure. Seeing strangers move so freely through those spaces reportedly left employees shocked and deeply uneasy. The discomfort only intensified when whispers began spreading that Tom Parker Bowles had allegedly approved the operation himself. Some staff reportedly struggled to understand how such an arrangement could move forward without direct confirmation from senior palace officials. Others feared that the boundaries protecting Balmoral's privacy were beginning to weaken. Conversations behind closed doors became increasingly tense as workers questioned who was truly in charge of the situation. Witnesses claimed that certain rooms were being prepared for filming, while sections of the estate were temporarily reorganized to accommodate production activity. Camera operators allegedly tested angles near hallways connected to private family areas, while support crews carried supplies through spaces normally kept far from public view. To longtime staff, it appeared as though the identity of Balmoral itself was slowly being transformed from a royal refuge into a controlled media environment. What made the situation even more alarming was the growing belief that the operation was moving forward with remarkable confidence, despite obvious concerns from estate employees. Some workers reportedly feared speaking openly, worried that challenging the setup could place them in an impossible position. Others simply watched in silence, stunned that such activity was unfolding inside one of the monarchy's most protected residences. And just as tensions inside Balmoral reached their peak, everything reportedly changed with the unexpected arrival of Princess Anne. Her unannounced arrival at Balmoral reveals an unsettling scene. Unfamiliar teams, rushed movements, and staff insisting everything is approved at the highest level, yet nothing feels normal. But what exactly is unfolding behind palace doors? And why does this quiet disruption hint at something far bigger than routine royal operations? Let's unravel the details. Princess Anne arrives at worst moment. Princess Anne unexpectedly arrives at Balmoral without prior notice, stepping into what was meant to be a quiet, tightly controlled royal environment. Instead, she is confronted with a scene that immediately feels out of place. Staff are moving faster than usual, voices are lower than normal, and unfamiliar teams are seen coordinating equipment in areas usually reserved for private royal use. At first, there was confusion. Some staff members attempt to explain the sudden activity, insisting everything has been approved at the highest level. But the explanation only deepens the tension already building inside Balmoral. Reports begin to surface that Tom Parker Bowles had allegedly authorized the entire operation, bypassing traditional palace approval channels. The claim alone raises serious concerns, especially given Balmoral's long-standing reputation as one of the most secure and privately managed royal residences, where even minor changes usually require strict clearance. Then Princess Anne steps further inside. Witnesses describe an immediate shift in energy the moment she enters the affected area. Conversations reportedly stop mid-sentence, movement slows, and the entire atmosphere tightens as she takes in what is unfolding. Equipment is seen spread across corridors, temporary setups placed in restricted sections, and catering crews appear to be operating under instructions that do not align with standard royal procedures. She does not raise her voice at first. Instead, she carefully observes everything, her attention moving across every detail of the scene. But that silence does not last long. The moment she confirms what is happening, her reaction is described as swift and firm. Staff report that she immediately questions authority, demanding clear answers about who granted permission for such access to Balmoral's private grounds. Tension escalates as conflicting explanations emerge. Some staff insist that Tom's name alone was presented as sufficient authorization, while others appear uncertain about the actual chain of command. The confusion only intensifies Anne's response. Within minutes, instructions are issued for all non-essential personnel to stop activity and begin leaving the premises without delay. Witnesses claim there is no negotiation, no extended discussion, and no opportunity for clarification. The directive is direct and absolute. The entire operation must be shut down immediately. By this stage, the estate is in full disruption. What began as a seemingly routine arrangement has now turned into a rapid evacuation, with staff moving quickly to comply while questions spread about how such an operation was allowed to begin without direct royal oversight or confirmation from senior authorities. The most unsettling detail comes afterward. Reports suggest that Tom Parker Bowles was not physically present during the incident. Instead, he allegedly coordinated from a distance, assuming his authority and family connections would be enough to secure access to the estate without resistance. As the situation settles, one thing becomes clear. Princess Anne's unexpected arrival exposed a serious breach in protocol at Balmoral, raising deeper concerns about who truly had control over the events that unfolded that day. What exactly did Princess Anne discover inside Balmoral that triggered such an immediate and visible shift in her reaction the moment she understood what was happening? And how did a quiet, controlled operation suddenly escalate into rising tension, confusion, and urgency as staff froze, and unauthorized activity continued spreading across the private royal grounds before anyone could regain control? Let's find out. The furious confrontation inside the estate. Witnesses claim Princess Anne reacted immediately the moment she fully understood what was unfolding inside Balmoral. The atmosphere shifted in seconds. What had looked like an organized but quiet operation suddenly turned into a scene of tension and urgency. Staff members reportedly froze as she stepped deeper into the estate and took in the unfamiliar equipment, the moving crews, and the unauthorized activity spreading through the private royal grounds. There was no hesitation in her response. According to those present, Anne's tone was firm, controlled, and unmistakably authoritative. She demanded answers on the spot, questioning who had permitted the operation and why royal protocols had been ignored. When she was told that Tom Parker Bowles had allegedly approved everything, her reaction only grew sharper. The idea that Balmoral, One of the most protected and private royal residences could be treated as a loosely arranged production site without direct royal consent, triggered immediate action. She is said to have issued a direct and uncompromising order for all external crews to immediately stop filming, shut down every piece of equipment, and vacate the premises without any delay. There was no space for discussion, clarification, or negotiation. Staff members who witnessed the moment described the atmosphere as tense but unmistakably decisive, with Princess Anne insisting that the integrity, security, and privacy of the estate had been seriously compromised by the ongoing activity. Within minutes of her instruction, supervisors began moving quickly through the grounds, directing teams to pack up their gear, dismantle lighting and recording setups, and clear out of designated royal areas. As the confrontation unfolded, confusion spread among workers who had been brought in under the belief that all required permissions had been properly secured before arrival. Some individuals reportedly attempted to question or verify their instructions, but the decision had already been finalized at a higher level. Anne's stance remained firm and unchanged throughout the exchange, with her primary focus directed toward restoring order and preventing further unauthorized activity on the estate. By the time the situation fully de-escalated, most of the external personnel had been instructed to leave within a matter of hours, exactly as she had ordered. The rapid shutdown created immediate uncertainty and left behind a trail of unanswered questions regarding how such a large-scale operation was approved in the first place and how it managed to extend so deeply into restricted royal grounds without prompt oversight or intervention. Meanwhile, separate reports continued to circulate suggesting that Tom Parker Bowles was not physically present during the confrontation, adding further ambiguity to his alleged involvement. The incident quickly became a subject of internal concern, especially as claims emerged that camera equipment had already recorded significant portions of the operation before it was abruptly halted, raising fresh questions about accountability, authorization, and control within the royal estate. What began as a quiet setup at Balmoral ended in a forceful shutdown, triggered by Princess Anne's uncompromising response and the growing suspicion that royal authority had been bypassed entirely. The situation at Balmoral was far from straightforward. In fact, it left staff deeply unsettled and questioning what they were witnessing. But how could Tom Parker Bowles' authority be exercised without his presence on the estate? Did representatives truly act in his name? And how did such a significant decision unfold without direct oversight or immediate clarification? Now let's uncover what really happened behind those conflicting reports and silent assumptions. The mystery of Tom's disappearance. As confusion spread across Balmoral, a strange detail began to dominate every conversation among staff and witnesses alike. Tom Parker Bowles was not actually present on the estate. Instead, multiple reports suggested he had allegedly sent representatives to oversee the operation in his name, leaving many to question how such a significant decision could be carried out without his direct involvement. At first, staff assumed it was a routine misunderstanding. High-profile family members occasionally delegated tasks, especially when schedules became too demanding or overlapping engagements required quick adjustments. In royal environments like Balmoral, such informal coordination is not entirely unusual. However, this situation soon felt noticeably different. The scale of activity unfolding on the estate grounds, including the arrival of trucks, cameras, and catering crews moving through restricted areas of the royal residence, suggested a level of approval far beyond an ordinary or informal arrangement. What unsettled insiders most was the confidence with which the entire operation had proceeded. There was no hesitation among the teams on site. Everyone appeared convinced that the instructions were legitimate and properly authorized. All indications reportedly pointed back to Tom's authority, giving the impression that approval had come from a trusted and recognized source. Yet when Princess Anne reportedly stepped in and demanded clarification, the situation shifted sharply. Confusion spread almost immediately, and no one could produce direct communication from him. Instead, There were only second-hand approvals passed through intermediaries, with no clear documentation to confirm their legitimacy. This absence created a vacuum of accountability that deepened suspicion. Questions quickly emerged about who had truly authorized the transformation of one of the royal family's most private estates into what appeared to resemble a controlled filming environment. The idea that such significant changes could be initiated without explicit royal sanction sparked immediate concern among senior staff, who were accustomed to strict procedural oversight. Adding to the tension was the timing of the events themselves. The operation had begun quietly and almost discreetly, as though carefully arranged to avoid drawing attention or raising alarm. However, once Princess Anne arrived unexpectedly and confronted the unfolding activity, every detail suddenly came under intense scrutiny. What had initially appeared routine now looked increasingly questionable, and it became harder for staff to separate assumption from verified fact. Witnesses later described a growing sense of unease as realization set in that Tom's physical absence was not a minor detail, but the central mystery of the entire incident. If he had not been present, then who exactly had been giving instructions? And why did so many people believe his name alone was enough to proceed without hesitation? The unanswered questions quickly overshadowed the original purpose of the visit. Instead of a routine arrangement, Balmoral had become the center of confusion, suspicion, and internal pressure. Even those who had initially defended the process began to reconsider what they had been part of. By the end of the day, the focus was no longer on the activities themselves, but on the unsettling realization that authority had been exercised from a distance, without verification, oversight, or direct accountability from Tom Parker Bowles, a mystery that left Balmoral's staff searching for answers that still had no clear resolution. The camera evidence that sparked royal chaos did not surface quietly, transforming an ordinary moment at Balmoral into a situation spiraling beyond control. But what was actually captured on those recordings? Who granted access to sensitive and restricted areas? And how did a tightly controlled royal estate suddenly begin to resemble an uncontrolled film set where instructions seemed to come from conflicting sources? Let's uncover the intriguing details. Anne catches stealing at Balmoral. The camera evidence that sparked royal chaos did not surface quietly. What began as a routine activity at Balmoral quickly spiraled into a situation no one inside the estate could fully control. As questions intensified, attention turned to what had actually been recorded, who had authorized the presence of multiple crews, and why sensitive areas of the royal residence were being treated like an open set. Staff members who were present described an atmosphere of confusion, as though instructions were coming from too many directions at once. At the center of the storm was the footage itself. Reports suggest cameras captured movements through restricted corridors, with personnel appearing to document areas normally closed to outsiders. The presence of catering trucks, lighting equipment, and production teams only deepened suspicions that something beyond routine access had been arranged. Many began asking a simple but explosive question: who gave the green light for this operation? Allegations quickly pointed toward Tom Parker Bowles, with claims that he had approved the arrangements without direct palace authorization. The suggestion alone was enough to send shockwaves through royal circles, especially given the sensitivity surrounding Balmoral as one of the monarchy's most private estates. If true, it meant boundaries had been crossed without the knowledge of senior officials. When Princess Anne arrived, the situation reportedly reached its breaking point. Witnesses describe her reaction as immediate and uncompromising. The sight of unfamiliar crews moving through royal halls, combined with the unfolding confusion over permissions, triggered a decisive response. Orders were given to halt all activity and clear the estate within hours, leaving no room for negotiation or delay. But what made the situation even more unsettling was what the camera evidence seemed to imply. Some insiders believed the footage did not just show unauthorized activity, but also hinted at deeper tensions within the royal inner circle. Questions emerged about communication breakdowns, overlapping authority, and whether certain individuals had attempted to bypass established protocols entirely. As the recordings were reviewed behind closed doors, speculation only grew stronger. Was this simply a misunderstanding that escalated too quickly, or did the evidence reveal a more deliberate attempt to take control of a highly restricted royal environment? For now, official silence surrounds the matter, but the existence of camera footage ensures the incident cannot be easily dismissed. What was captured at Balmoral continues to raise uncomfortable questions about trust, authority, and the unseen fractures within the royal household. So, what do you think Princess Anne discovered on camera at Balmoral that led to shocking claims against Tom Parker Bowles and royal chaos unfolding behind closed doors? We'd like to hear your thoughts. Don't forget to like and subscribe.